Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. I'm Radha, and I'm here with our regular family of seekers. We're so regular now. I love it. I love seeing you guys every Monday and Thursday. My week would not be the same without it. So it's so nice. Welcome to the Sangha. And we are reading through the Bhagavad Gita, and we're talking about its relevance in our lives. And when we do that, it really makes it come alive it's like another level of living it, of living the Gita, is when we not only talk about these principles, but then we talk about how we see them in our lives and how we try to live by them, and when we fall down, when we mess up, right? I don't know about you guys, but talking about our experiences through the lens of the Gita, as we go through our days, it's like still in my mind. I start to see things differently. I start to see them through the lens of the Gita. So that's what we do here. Thanks for coming. And before I start today, I do want to say in maybe a little over a month, we have our Gita retreat, our Gita in Action retreat. We're doing it at New Vrindavan. Please come. Please, you can meet some of our crew here that come live. I know Katie's coming. What else is on here? But anyway, yes, please come. And we're going to be doing kind of the same thing, but in a more intimate setting, drawn out for a whole weekend. We're going to be singing lots of kirtan. We're going to be having talks like this. We're going to be eating delicious food. And I'm doing it with my good friend Veda Sar. He's like a magical kind of person. If you know him or have heard of him, just being in his presence is transcendental. So yeah, please come. And that's going to be September 5th through the 7th. And if you live out of town and you need help with airport shuttles, I can help with that. And if money's a reason that you can't come, message me and we'll try to figure something out because we want everyone to be able to come that wants to come. Okay, so that's that. Oh, you can go to the New Vrindavan website to register. You can also message me and I'll send you a link. But New Vrindavan, it's in West Virginia. You can go to the website. We're on the website there. Okay, so let's get into the Gita today. We are in chapter 6. We're in chapter 6, and we are on verse 36. Is that where we are? Where are we, guys? We're on verse 35. Okay, we're on verse 35. And we're at the place where Krishna is going to start answering Arjuna's questions, right? Or Arjuna is kind of like, look, I want to, do what you're saying, but it's just not practical for me. Like my mind is too restless. Seeing everyone, equally, seeing everything equally, my mind's too restless. I'm just not there yet. And so now Krishna's going to come in and drop some wisdom bombs, and we're all going to benefit and talk about it. Right? So let's see what kind of wisdom bombs Krishna drops on us today. 35. Can you read today, Stella? You know, please.
Yes, I will.
Okay, great.
Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment.
Thank you. Okay, so again, here Krishna's not denying what Arjuna's saying, that this is difficult. My mind's too restless. He's acknowledging that, controlling the mind is hard, but he's also reassuring him, it's not impossible. It can be done through two things. It can be done through two things. You want to control your mind: steady practice and detachment. Steady practice and detachment. We can control the mind. You can think of it like when someone is sick and they need two things to recover, right? They need like a medicine, a process that will heal them, but they also need to stay away from the things that will make them worse. Right? Like if you have a heart condition, you need to stay away from that greasy, junky food. Right? And you need to take your medication. Right? So that's what Krishna's telling us here. That's his prescription for us. Right? In the same way that we're afflicted with so much material consciousness, He's saying you can overcome this. You can calm the mind by steady practice and detachment. Right? And in bhakti yoga, our practice is to keep bringing the mind back to God again and again. Right? If it wanders, we bring it back. And detachment means avoiding the activities that unnecessarily agitate us or distract us, right? That pull us back down into material consciousness. Right? Because we want the nectar, right? We want the nectar, and we get that nectar of connection with God. So, like we talked about in this chapter, we've been learning so much about the mind, learning, that we're not the mind. That's like step number one. And once we start to kind of figure out, okay, we're not the mind, we don't need to overly identify with the mind. We don't need to listen to everything the mind tells us. We can learn to start observing the mind, right? Instead of blindly following it. Every single pop-up that comes up, we don't have to click on it. And in that way, we can create a little bit of space between us and our thoughts. We can choose the ones that we want to engage in. So be prepared that your mind is like a pop-up making machine, and pop-ups are constantly going to show up on your screen. And now that we know, look, I'm not the mind. I can observe this a little bit. I can discern what's good for me, what's not. I can choose which ones to click on and which ones to click out of. And this inner detachment is going to help us see that's the positive and functional thoughts for us, that we should pursue. And it'll help us let go of the negative, wasteful, destructive ones. Because we all know that not every thought deserves attention. Not every we don't want to click on every pop-up. In fact, most of the pop-ups that come up on our screen, we don't want to click on. Right? How annoying is it when you're on the computer and it's like it's pop-ups there and it's like you're trying to click off of it. It's just taking up the whole thing. It's what's happening in our mind. So be aware of that. Be aware of when that's happening. When we're making a big deal out of something that we really don't need to zoom in on, we could just kind of click out of. Just click out of that moment. Right? And this is what detachment does. It teaches us to ignore the mind's unwarranted demands. And we should know that that's happening. When we're getting fixated on something, when it's consuming our consciousness. Happens all the time. Just yesterday, my husband's, I'll just say out loud, is not a big Trump supporter. In fact, he's actually the opposite. So much so that it's like a meditation, I feel like sometimes. And he's like always telling me the next worst thing that Trump did, which I get is like terrible. But it's like they just pop up. It just pops up. It just pops up. And it's like if the things that we let consume our mind, it's what we're going to become. Even in like spiritual texts, the demons that meditate on Krishna, they get liberated because they're thinking of Krishna all the time. It's like it's what fills up their mind. Right? So if we meditate on things that aren't good for us or thoughts that are going to bring us down, they're going to bring us it's what we're going to become. Right? Okay, so this is detachment. Mind your thoughts. Next is discipline, right? A steady practice. I was reading a book by Keshava Swami, and he quoted this U.S. President Harry Truman about discipline. He said, in reading the lives of great men, I found that the first victory they won was over themselves. Self-discipline with all of them came first. So it's like anybody who's ever been successful in anything. We know this. You have to have a pretty high standard of discipline. And to the degree that you're disciplined, to the degree that you'll be successful at anything. And our spiritual practice is no different. If we want that connection with God, if we want to obtain that state of steadiness, right, of peacefulness, right, of love in our heart, it's going to take some discipline. It's going to take some discipline. So detachment helps us step back, right? It kind of pulls us back, and discipline helps us step forward. Detachment helps us from getting caught in habits and thoughts or influences that are going to just distract us. And then discipline, steady spiritual practice gives us the strength to keep moving towards God, even when the mind resists. Just like when we're trying to get healthier bodies, we have to avoid the junk food And we have to nourish ourselves with wholesome meals and regular exercise. That's the discipline. So we have the detachment, we have to avoid the junk food, and then we have to discipline ourselves with discipline our nourish our bodies with wholesome meals and regular exercise. That's the discipline. Okay, so spiritually, we avoid what agitates the mind, and instead we engage it in hearing and chanting and remembering God, right? Because God is all pure. God is all pure. And so when we associate with that, when we fill our mind up with that, it's purifying us. Just that association. So we know how important association is. So when Krishna's in our mind, then we're associating, right? Katie, please share with us. I see your hand is up.
Thank you. Hi, Ball. This is so helpful already, as usual. But it was making me think how, lately with this trying to focus on practicing what we want, can focus our mind on more and more. And it was helping me realize like sometimes my mind sets up like unreal expectations,
Mm.
that can really let me down. And yeah, I was kind of realizing like my mind can convince me. Well, I guess I'll say first that sometimes things that are like unfairness that really gets me, agitated, and but instead to remember this is the material world. It's not, unfortunately, in the, not everyone is going to be. Would want to be, but and want to do it to others, but treat people equally and fairly. But, we're not going to experience that 100% of the time. And I was discussing this with a Buddhist friend in the carpool yesterday, and how it's just helpful to remind the mind that, what we're dealing with realistically in the material world, rather than get in like a spin on over focusing on and repeating, through talking with each other or in our own minds, dwelling on something like that, like our mind is just so focused on everything should be fair, just kind of not saying, okay, fine, I'll just let it go, and it's not fair, and not stand up for people or something like that, but just to realize like what we're working with, and remind the mind like this is the material world, and don't get stuck in that loop. And man, lately you've had some such gems. Like it really stuck with me maybe last week when you said, no matter what problem is going on, there's a far greater inner reality. And
Mm.
that, man, it's making me want to tear up. That's been so, so, so helpful. So that just came to me to share.
Wow.
Like expectations. Like my mind goes kind of crazy with expectations that just aren't realistic in Kali Yuga. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
powerful. Thank
Yeah, it's
you.
helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and it's not even to like minimize what we're going through or like because things are unfair and people do suck. And like whatever it is, it's like it's probably true. But what this spiritual knowledge does is it allows us to see it in greater perspective. And just like what you said, to kind of tailor our expectations, like we're putting quarters in a broken vending machine,
Yeah.
and we're expecting to get all this great candy. It's like, it's not going to happen. It's
Yeah.
okay, but it's not going to happen. And this is why we have to turn to something greater, to something bigger, to something all loving, because that's a vending machine. It's like it's like infinite. It's just gonna. You don't
Yeah.
even have to put quarters in. It's just gonna give it to you. It's
Yeah. And
like,
it also stuck with me when you said about that. Oh shoot, what was it? Seek spiritual solutions to material problems.
yeah,
Yeah. Thanks.
yeah, that's exactly it. Thank you, Katie. Yeah. And when your mind is going through a reel, it's like, even if it's true, even if everything is valid, it's like, what's the point? You're just depleting your energy on something that, yeah, it's the nature of material reality. We shouldn't get too invested. Mariah, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's just Kate, what Katie shared is just like stimulating some things I've heard recently also. And yeah, I totally understand like getting caught in that like wanting to find solutions for the material problems, but it's just like, how comfortable can we make this material world? Like it's still going to end, right? And I could that not to be a doomsdayer, but it's just like it's still going to end. Like we can only make it so comfortable, we can only fix it so much, we can only, right? So it's like, should we focus all our energy on that, or should we focus it on the spiritual solution, right? And I heard someone say the other day, the only like they were saying the only thing they can control is their desire. And Krishna reciprocates with our desire. So if we're desiring, material success, Krishna will give it to you. It's going to be hard because the material world is just a struggle no matter what. But if we're desiring Krishna, if we're desiring spiritual, there might still be some roadblocks, there might still be some difficulties, but you're going to still get that. Like if you desire, oh, I want to know Krishna, I want spiritual life, you will get it, right? Like, and they are talking specifically on like, how do they chant so well, or how do they sit and chant so long? And the person was just like, because I want to. Like, it's just a desire here, right? So that's another thing that's helping me recently, especially with like all this, like, yeah, detach and then have that steady practice. How do you keep a steady practice? You desire it, right? And so that's a new thing I'm contemplating. I just heard that yesterday on another group that was reading another book. And yeah, just we can control our desire. If we choose, detach from the mind, detach from all of the pop-ups, think about and observe, okay, all of these pop-ups are like my mind and my body telling me, I want this, I want this, I want this. Okay, what do I really want? What do I know is best for my soul, for my mind and my body also? Like, nourishing the soul is best for our mind and body also. So yeah, just learning, okay, observe these pop-ups, let them go. Now direct the desire to the, and that's the practice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to share that because I
So
heard that,
nice.
like, I like it in that form of you can control your desires, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and resist the urge to get mad about all the pop-ups coming up. It's just the nature of the mind. It's going to happen. Expect that it happens. Expect that it happens, and therefore be prepared. So yeah, thank you both. Great shares. So together, this detachment and this discipline reshapes our mind. Right? And it reshapes our mind so that our mind will serve us instead of sabotaging us. And step by step, it will help us make steady progress towards our true purpose, right? Which is reviving our connection with God. So I did have a question here for you guys, if anybody wants to share again. I was wondering for you guys what you find harder, this detachment, this letting go of distractions, or this discipline, this sticking to a positive practice. Hey, what do you find harder? Shakti, so good to see you, my friend. Please share with us.
Um, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Glories to Prabhupada. Wow, so for me, that's like an easy one. I don't know why. Uh, I find it so much harder here to try and control, try and stop the pop-ups, try and like, for me, if I stay disciplined in my sadhana, I know for a fact, it's because I guess I know factually. When I came back from India this year, I was so, I just like, I don't turn, I haven't watched TV. I don't remember the last time I watched TV. I used to have it on all the time, and literally it was on CNN, and they literally recycle the same news over and over and over and over again. And I would say, oh no, it's just, I have it in the background. It's my background noise. So it's like, why do I want that in the background? Like the same, like again, like we know Trump, whatever, all of that. Like, why do I want to hear that cycle over and over again? So instead, if I feel like I need background noise, which quite frankly, I don't feel like that anymore. Like when I'm in my sadness place, when I'm really like plugged in, And thanks to Krishna, it's been a long time that I've been staying plugged in because following the sadhana. It really is so much like it's so much easier to have quiet because I'm one of those people that don't like I'm like I get like, oh, I have to fill the space or I should say something when I could just be and not say anything, or I could listen to, like, I'm taking Bhakti Shastri so I could listen to the verses that I'm trying to memorize. And that's, I think, for me, actually, what just came up for me is I think that for me, when I know that that's happening, what comes up, my mind comes up and says, you're never going to be able to memorize these verses. Like, who are you kidding, Stacey? Like, you can't memorize these verses. And I'm like, in my head, like, have these, I'm going to memorize the verses. You're not going. So it's like my mind, Maya is wanting to tell me that I can't do these things that I want to do for my practice, and then I'm going to fail.
Mm.
That's what it wants to tell me about my sadhana. And I guess that I hear him saying it's so easy, but it just came up like that. I think for me is hard because it tells me that I'm not going to be able to do it. So I constantly have to go like, I'm going to try anyway.
Mm.
I'm going to try anyway, and just keep doing it. And I don't always, doesn't always happen, and then I maybe have to retake it, but I just keep trying anyway because I think both Katie and is it more Mariah,
Mariah. Hmm.
Mariah, both of you guys are talking about like the material world and the pop-ups, and it's like I will do anything, like stand on my head with one hand in the air to like not have that mind because it drives me. It does. It makes me theory like literally. I don't know everything. It makes me crazy. I
Yeah.
can't have that mind. I can't live in that. So
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is that your discipline, your steady practice helps you to become more detached. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. And that's exactly what that's what the practice is. That's what the practice is. It's like it gives you a higher taste, and it helps you to even to identify, to even notice the difference between those negative voices in your head and reality, right? To know that those negative voices, it's not you. It's your conditioning. It's the impressions that are in your mind that have kind of taken over, but it's not you. And the more that we associate with what is love, what is pure, it's we're able to see that in its proper light, and it doesn't overcome us because we have this steady spiritual connection, and therefore we're able to, because we see the light, we're able to better identify the darkness for what it is, and understand that it's not us. Yeah. And the more that we associate with that all pure, that all loving, the more that we'll be able to even see that polarity, and it'll come in and be like, oh, that's funny, it's coming again. It's like a child, instead of like a big mean monster. It's just like, oh, that's funny. Okay. It doesn't know. It doesn't get it. Right. Yeah. Thank you. So nice. Yeah. So the best way to deal with the mind, other than attaching to something, I mean, that's really the best way. But as we're practicing and as we're going about, we have to learn how to train our mind. We have to learn how to train our mind. Like if you're if you're on a huge ranch, okay, you're on a huge ranch before the times of like motorized little vehicles, right? And you need a horse to get around, right? But the only horse that's available is like super wild and dangerous. But it's the only horse that's available, and we need it to do our job. So we have to train it. We have to train it, and we have to be patient and wait for it to become reliable. And exactly our predicament here as spiritual beings living in this material world, right? To function, we need a mind. We need a mind. We can't just like say goodbye. Right? We need that subtle interfacing tool. But ironically, the mind also can become our biggest obstacle. Oftentimes becomes our biggest obstacle. It'll mislead us, it'll knock us down, it'll ambush us. Right? So when we truly see how troublesome this mind can be, we might even like feel like loathing it. Right? But even that's pointless because we can't get rid of it. As long as we live in the world, we need a mind, and we're not going to get a new one. Okay, so what do? Just like the wild horse, we have to train it. We have to train it, and there's standard methods for training it. Bhakti yoga, it's a standard method for training it. And we have to understand that no two horses are exactly alike, and therefore no two minds are exactly alike. So just like the skilled horse trainer is going to observe each horse and the particular quirks of the horse and customize their training accordingly, we have to do the same thing with our mind. We have to understand what agitates it. We have to understand what calms it. We have to understand what helps it focus, what distracts it, what tricks it tries to play on us. And then we have to get smarter than our mind. We have to avoid the things that agitate our minds. And we have to nourish it with things that bring it peace, right? So that it'll be more responsive to our higher intelligence. Okay? So in this way, we can even customize our spiritual practices. Within the framework of Bhakti Yoga, we can give special attention to practices that help us most easily and joyfully connect with God. Maybe you're really drawn to kirtan, or the Gita, or chanting, whatever it is, or association with certain devotees. Customize, put yourself in places that are nourishing, right, to your body, to your mind, to your soul. Right? And in the same way that a well-trained horse can become a trusted companion, right, and a great asset to its master, our mind can be the same. If our mind becomes purified and aligned with devotion, it can become a powerful ally in our spiritual journey. So stick with it, be patient, but be determined, and know that it's possible to train the mind. It's possible to train the mind so that that loud voice, Stacy, that's always telling you, you can't do this. You can't, that you can overcome that. Right? It sounds like you are overcoming that. That you hear it still, but you know better than to listen to it. And we can do this with our minds. We can start to train the mind to at some point that it won't even be telling you that anymore. And that won't even be a voice that you know anymore. Just like that, the wild mind can be trained. Okay? And also in this, we have to know when to be hard on ourselves and when to be gentle. Right? Because we're going to slip up. It's natural. We're going to slip up, and it's natural to get irritated, and start beating ourselves up. Right? Thinking that maybe if we're hard on ourselves, that will help us do better the next time. Right? And sometimes this being strict, it can help, but not always. And for this, we need to evaluate why we slipped. Right? Like if we're careless or complacent, then maybe we can be a little bit firm with ourselves. Right? But if you slip because, of doubt or uncertainty or anxiety, it's not productive to be hard on ourselves. This can like demoralize us. Like maybe you skipped your practice because you felt overwhelmed or worried you weren't doing it right or feared failing. Like in moments like this, we don't want to be so hard on ourselves. This harsh criticism, it can just make us stressed, right? And make it harder to get back on track. I know this happened with me when I've talked about this before, when I had my baby and I couldn't hold the standard of deity worship that I was doing. And then I just felt like, okay, I can't do anything. And to be honest, like for a couple weeks, I was like trying to even do it in my head. And people would tell me, oh, just do it in your head. But I had like resistance to that because I had to like put up this block that like, nothing was good enough. It was just like this mind game, you know? I got out of it by talking to my Shiksha guru about it, and he was like, "No, you can do a very simple practice," and gave me a simple practice, and so really just that element of surrender to him helped me kind of get out of my own way. But anyway, we have to know when it's productive to be hard on ourselves and push ourselves and to treat ourselves like a lost child, you know, a lost child who's just trying and struggling and needs a little bit of love and patience. Because if we're trying to train our mind and we're just training it like with no love and just like pure push, we're not going to get very far. Right? So we have to kind of know when to be there for ourselves as well. Right? Just like children, we're struggling, we're trying, we're conditioned, and we're not going to change overnight. So let's give ourselves a little bit of grace, a little bit of love, a lot of bit of love, and uh, and know that the mind will be trained. You know, we will rise from this. But we need to kind of allow the space to also be and know that that's okay. Right? And bhakti wisdom takes this encouragement even further. You know, this is the beautiful thing about bhakti wisdom. We throw up our hands and we know even if things are impossible for me, Krishna's almighty grace can make it possible. Right? So it's like and I feel like this all the time too. Like I can't do it. If Krishna wants this to happen, Krishna will do it. But this is not me. Right? And my role is just to try my best. Just to try my best and to keep trying. But know that I'm little. I'm little. I'm finite. Right? I only have so much capability. I only have so much wisdom. I only have so much strength. Krishna has it all. Krishna has it all, and he can give me however much he wants. Right? And all I have to do is ask. And Krishna's grace is accessible to me. So, so we don't just have to rely on ourselves. Right? Expect that you're going to fall, expect that you're going to stumble, expect that you're going to be kind of like a child learning how to walk. But Krishna's grace is infinite. And we all are entitled to that. It's all, you know, it's accessible to us. It's accessible to us. Mariah.
Yeah, I just want to expand on what you're talking about because it's just so beautiful. Like, and coming through this class and reading the Gita again, that's what's really has come to me. Like, I was always so hard on myself. Like, I felt guilty that I couldn't like maintain a practice or anything. And then all of a sudden, I gave up this negative thinking and I started coming to a class every week. And, I've only grown exponentially since then. Like, I'm still not where I want to be. But if I look back at where I was, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing so much more than I was a year ago, 2 years ago. And that's the beauty of it. It's just like that steady practice and it grows. It just grows. But that's another thing that we've read, like in the beginning when we were on like chapter 2 and chapter 3, I think it's more chapter 2, we're talking about the modes of material nature, right? We're constantly working against those. Now we're talking about the mind. We're constantly working against the mind. And Krishna is saying right here in the Gita, he's like, I know, I see that, and it's okay. Like, I don't blame you for falling down when you're working against these really powerful forces. I still love you. I forgive you. And I'm here to help you. Like, just call my name. And that's really just like, really so beautiful. Like, we don't have to be hard on ourselves. Oh, I'm in ignorance or my mind. No, the mind. No, the material modes of nature, not me. Those things are outside of me. Krishna, help me, because the real me
Yeah.
is not those things. And so yeah, it's just so beautiful to like really study the Gita and learn these things. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and saying that, it's not a way to like avoid responsibility. It's just reality that what we are is a spirit soul. Right? So when we're influenced by the modes of nature and the mind pulls us here and there, it's just not us. It's just not us. And we get so stuck in material conditioning. We like to think, just like you said, I'm successful. I'm a mother. And we should understand these are roles that we're playing, but our eternal journey is one of of being reunited with God, right? In our rightful, because we're spirit souls. That's what we are. We're souls. And this outer covering is not us. Stella.
Yeah, I love it. What everyone's saying is really feeding my soul today. But I was really thinking like it's Krishna's such an expert. Um, he created this whole material world for those of us who want to put ourselves at the center. And the mind is like this excellent vehicle to do that. Like he gave us, not only this the physical body, but that subtle body is designed for those who want to be in this material world because it's like it both drives you to indulge, but it's also such a thing that it bothers you so that you don't get too complacent here. It's like it both satisfies that material desire, but also puts a thorn in it because the mind is such a pain to everybody. There's nobody on earth has a perfectly calm mind. If even the highest materialists, their mind is like a thorn to them. Like so. It's just I'm just appreciating Krishna's expert way of doing that, uh and I don't want this material mind. It's like a prison suit, like
Mm.
I want to get out of the prison. um but I like that what Mariah was saying. It's the mind, and it's the mind was designed for this little dark corner of Krishna's creation, and I want to get out of the dark corner. So yeah, to detach that identity with the mind, I think is a really great step in detachment and being able to understand that our practice can use the very mind that was designed to keep us, swirling in this sandbox.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Yeah, because it's like if a stranger came up to us on the road and asked us to follow them, if we're walking down the street, a stranger comes up and asks us to follow them. We wouldn't just like go along without thinking, right? We'd first like decide if, they're a person that's worth listening to and if what they're saying is worth listening to. Right? That's just like common sense. But because we overly identify with the mind, we don't apply the same common sense to our inner world. Because from within, these stray thoughts are constantly emerging. It's like we're doing something, we're focused, and then our mind tells us, you need a snack, or like whatever your mental detour is, tempting us to just crave these trivial things, lament over things that are unchangeable, worry about things that are highly unlikely, right? Because in the big picture of things, we're eternal souls on this journey of spiritual evolution, and our mind is constantly pulling us off track, distracting us, either by things that are just like not worth the effort or things that like pull us down, right? Things that we worry about that are never going to happen, things that we worry about that are never going to change, things that we think are going to bring us happiness but don't. We're just all these little detours, on our eternal journey. And sometimes these thoughts are so subtle, and they come up so swiftly that we fall into them before we even realize it. It's like think of how easy it is to get stuck replaying an old conversation in your head. Anybody else ever do this? Like what you should have said, what the other person might have meant, just like overly involved in this story. Minutes pass, hours pass, nothing has changed, right? But you've taken this mental detour that leads nowhere. And the cost of these detours, it's not even just wasted times. They can cause us to act in ways that aren't in line with our higher values. And this is the restless nature of the mind. The Gita compares it to a wanderer that keeps roaming aimlessly. So we can't eliminate the mind's wanderlust immediately. Okay, but we can train ourselves to resist it. And we do this by purposefulness. If it's like if we think back to that first example, if you're on your way to an important meeting or assignment and a random stranger comes up and it's like sidetracks you, you're going to stay focused. You're just going to try to kind of like blow them off as soon as you can so that you can keep on track, getting to that important meeting. You're not even going to like hear what they have to say. Right. And similarly, if we have purposeful engagement, meaningful activities, and we remind ourselves why they matter, we're less likely to let these stray thoughts pull us away. And that's what most of us, are here trying to do is to get that sense of purpose through our spiritual practices. Meditation that connects us with our deepest values and our highest goals. Such meditation fosters this inner alertness. I think of that Coldplay example that's been in the news, of that couple that had an affair and they were caught on the kiss cam, whatever. And I was thinking, would that have happened if they had a really strong spiritual practice? Because let's be honest, like people that are married, people that have been married for a long time, after a while of being married, if you've ever been married, it's like it loses its super exciting, like can't wait to see that person. Things just kind of become steady. And you crave that excitement, right? That's just like a natural thing. You crave excitement. And if you have nothing higher to hold on to, it's so much easier to kind of fall off or, look for excitement here or look for the next high here, even if it goes against your higher values. And especially something like a marriage, like sometimes are good, sometimes they're not, sometimes you're talking a lot, sometimes you're not. It's like, and if you have nothing else in your life, when you're at one of those places where, for whatever reason, maybe your marriage isn't as strong as other times, it's natural. It's natural. What else are you going to do? You need that excitement. We naturally crave pleasure as beings. So if we don't have a source for that lifts us up, that connects us, that fills our hearts, of course we're going to stray. I mean, of course it's going to happen. And spirituality, a connection with God, is the highest, right? It is the strongest, is the purest. We can connect to things materially that are maybe a little bit higher than something that was negative, something that was pulling us down. But if you want the highest, if you want the most pure, the most loving, that's connection with source, that's connection with God. And having a mission, having a purpose, having a focus on that destination, it's going to keep you from all these side detours that eventually are just going to either leave you distracted at best or like completely tear you down and like the most embarrassed CEO in all of America, right? Katie, please share with us.
Thanks. Thank you. It just reminded me of two really good examples I've had in my life of people who control their mind better. And one is an older gentleman that I got the privilege to meet, who was teaching my former partner mechanic stuff. And he's like this awesome dude. And anytime you'd say, "Hi, how are you?" Like upon meeting up, he'd say, "Fantastic." No matter what, like covered in grease in the Australian heat, like, and or gasoline or whatever. And it was just, you could kind of tell it was just this like connection that he wouldn't let be broken, like, I clearly I might not be having the best day physically, but he was just so, and it was so real, and he is really a wonderful soul to have the experience to be around and have as like a mentor, more so for my my former partner, but so nice. And then the other one that came to mind is my brother. Um, in the last years, whenever, and I'm not sure if he does this like across the board, but maybe. And every time I say, "Hey, how are you?" He goes, "Blessed by the Lord, blessed by the Lord." And I think it's just their sense that, this is helpful to me. It's helpful to the other person. It's like keeping my connection more constant. So yeah, just those two came to mind. Yeah,
Hmm.
so nice.
Thanks. Thanks,
Yeah.
Katie. Yeah. Yeah. So let's be those people. Let's be those people. And when you can have that mindset, you know you're always blessed by the Lord. God's always on your mind. It'll even be easy to identify more a detour or a mental detour that's going to pull you off track. It won't even be like you won't even entertain it, right? Because you'll be so focused on your destination. You'll be living that relationship that it's like, no, that's a detour. It's not going to serve me. Right? It's not going to serve me. So why go down that path? Right? And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. So we're getting here to this last part of class, and this is like the most important part of class. This is the most important part of class. This is the most powerful tool for rewiring the mind. Okay, you have a restless mind, mind's everywhere. Right? We talked about all the pop-ups. Right? The most powerful tool for rewiring the mind is mantra meditation. Right? Mantra meditation. Because we can think of the mind like an internet browser, like we talked about, and just as, Firefox or Chrome, has a default homepage, the browser of our mind has a default state. It has like a familiar vision or way of thinking that it always returns to, just like Stacy was talking about. Her familiar vision is like, you can't do this. You're not good enough. Okay? I can relate to that familiar vision. That's a favorite of mine. Favorites on our browsers. The mind entertains certain desires or dreams or narratives, inspired by people or places that have shaped us for the good or for the hurtful, right? Our browsers, we have histories. The mind's filled with impressions from past experiences. We even have like the autocomplete function in our mind, like suggesting sites that we visited before. The mind's going to gravitate towards those familiar emotions or experiences that immediately resonate. Okay, so this is the browser of our mind. It's like no coincidence that computers are what they are. This is just this is the browser of our mind. Okay, but just like this browser, our mind can also be reconfigured. This browsing data, it can be cleared. Our settings can be personalized. Themes can be adjusted. We can install updates. We can do this step by step with Krishna's grace. We can do this. We can craft a more beautiful and peaceful mind that's going to stay present, that's going to serve us here and now. Okay, and one of the most powerful ways to do this is mantra meditation. And this is the repeated recitation of God's names. Okay, and it may seem like mechanical or like too simple to be real. How can just like uttering a few words, just like sounds transform the mind and invoke a higher spiritual experience? Like, how is that real? But in the spiritual dimension, the name of God, it's not just a sound, but it's non-different than Krishna himself. And that's hard for us to grasp because we don't really relate to that in the material world, where language is symbolic, like words only represent a reality. Words are not the reality, right? Like, thank God for that. They're separate from what they describe. Okay, but God is absolute. Okay, so God's absolute. And in the spiritual realm, there's no difference between him and his name. So just grasp that for a minute. Like, we're talking about the spiritual realm, which operates on a whole different dimension. All the laws that we know to be true here in the material realm, gravity, karma, whatever. Spiritual is governed by a whole different set. Okay? And everything is absolute. So there's no difference between the sound of his name and him. It's the same. So when we're chanting with sincerity and attention, we're not just making sounds, we're directly associating with divinity. That's what we're doing when we're saying God's names. It's not just sounds, we're associating with divinity. Because in this absolute realm, the symbol embodies the reality. In material realm, that's not true. But in spiritual realm, the symbol embodies the reality. So that's why chanting God's names is considered the most potent practice for spiritual and mental well-being, because just by that association, just like what we're saying, we become purified. You stick a hot piece of iron in a fire and it becomes hot. We're saying God's names, we're associating with God, we're experiencing that purification. And many of us have felt that firsthand. You sit down, you chant for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and you afterwards you feel like you took a bath. You feel like you took a bath of your consciousness. That's not coincidence. No, that's direct association with divinity that you had. And over time, it's gonna change you. It's gonna start to change those default browsers. It's gonna take some time because you've been associating with material matter and energy for so long that it's going to take some time. Your homepage is pretty well established, but there's hope for us. It can change, and it can change slowly and surely by this mantra meditation, this association with divinity. Because what is the mantra that we chant when we chant Hare Krishna? We chant Hare Krishna. What we're saying here, this mantra, what this means, we're saying, oh energy of the Lord, oh all attractive Lord, oh supreme enjoyer. Please engage me in your service. Sometimes I meditate on this, like it's such a prayer of surrender. It's like, help me to get out of my own way and to see your way. Help me to align with your frequency because I'm so aligned with with whatever frequency is blowing my way that I'm just pulled off course. Like, please engage me in your service. Please align me in your frequency. Please help me to let go, right? To detach from what I think serves me. So this prayer, it's combining this practice and this detachment. Right? Just by chanting, we're actively engaging the mind in something that's uplifting. Then in doing so, we're naturally detaching it from these lower, restless patterns that keep us bound. So this is through this practice, this is how we begin to awaken our original spiritual consciousness. That's the process. Shakti, do you have something to share with us?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if we think about it, or if I think about it, how long did I live with the the cassette tape? That's how far it goes back of you're not good enough, you're never going to get this done. You can't do anything for more than 5 minutes. All of these things, whatever they are, all of these negative things bringing me down. How long have those tapes been running? Like I think some of them, the tape is ripped because it's been playing for so long. And I know, like the chanting has to like I know for me the 16 round it has to happen, not because it has to happen because the initiation, it has to happen because otherwise my mind's going to blow up. And I started reading this. My friend gave me this little japa affirmation book that her Guru Dev gave her. It's by her Guru Dev. And so I read that in the morning, then I start my japa. But the new thing I just added, and it's something that I'm very, very, I feel like I don't have a good voice. I can't sing. My voice is, I'm off tune, whatever. And so when I go down in the morning, and my favorite time of the day, talking to Guranitai, and I was just talking like I'm sorry if I'm so emotional, but like yesterday or this morning, actually I feel like yesterday, I just was saying, like, please help me get out of my own way. Please, Krishna, help me serve in whatever way you desire. and others things. And then I did yesterday, last night, before I put them to bed, I chanted the, like a Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to them on the harmonium. And it was like, and then I was like, did you like that? Like, I hope you like that. It's for you. I love you. Like, if you would have told me this is what I'd be doing, at this time in my life, but it's what feeds my soul. And then I went upstairs and then I read more spiritual literature. And it's like, that is the only thing. What you're saying is so true. It's the only thing that, at least for me, that will get me through the day, through the week, through the month, through the year.
Yeah. Wow. So true. Thank you, Stacy. And that's kind of a nice way to close this too. If you think that your mind is too restless and you're just too attached, that this is impossible for you, like Arjuna, understand that it's a gradual process. Just like someone who broke their leg, they can't walk properly at first, but by taking these few small steps, by observing, your strength can return. So you may not have control of the mind right now. It may be out to lunch, but by taking small steps, by practicing a little detachment, a little mindfulness, we can build more control over time. And just like Stacy said, what do we do when our body feels weak? We eat. Food nourishes us, and the weakness and even the hunger fades away. So in the same way, when the mind feels weak and restless, we need to give it its proper nourishment. And we need to, by fixing the mind on God, through hearing, through chanting, through remembering Him, we'll gain this spiritual strength. And that strength, and as that strength will grow, our hankering for other things will naturally fade. And in its place, we'll begin to taste a deeper and lasting satisfaction. So the more that we engage in this devotional service, the more fulfilled that we will feel, and the fulfillment makes it easier to face temptations and distractions, right? And to say no to them ultimately. Right? So Krishna's not minimizing the challenge of controlling the mind. He's acknowledging it. It's hard. But he's reminding us too that the solution is real. It's real and it works. Remember these two things: steady practice and detachment. Okay? Even the wildest mind can become our ally with those two things: steady practice and detachment. Just like the sick body that can regain strength through the right food and the right lifestyle, the restless mind regains stability through nourishing practices and the courage to let go of what no longer serves us. So we start by observing the mind, right? Becoming aware of its patterns, its triggers, its tendencies. And then with gentleness and discipline, we train it. Not with aggression, but with consistency. Not with self-loathing, but with trust in Krishna's process. And the heart of this process is bhakti, right? Connecting with God through hearing, through chanting, through remembering, through mantra meditation. And every time we bring that mind back to Krishna, even if it's wandered 1,000 times, we're reshaping our inner world. Right? We're building strength. We're awakening satisfaction. So don't get discouraged if your mind still runs wild sometimes. Okay, it's like training that wild horse, right? Or recovering from an injury. It's going to take time, patience, care, but it's possible. Krishna says so. Okay, so if we just stay on the path, step by step, we'll find our minds becoming quieter, and our hearts becoming fuller, our purpose becoming clear. And just like we say again and again, because this is a big point in the Gita, it's just step by step through these small, consistent changes. Okay, that's all that I had for you all today. Does anybody want to share any final reflections? Or we had some really nice shares today. Thank you all for coming and contributing. Just makes it so much more enriching that you all come and share and contribute. So thank you for kind of happened organically, but it's so nice. Anybody have any final reflections before we go for the day? Okay. Mariah, you don't have anything? You got anything, Mariah?
No, I think I covered it today. Just
Thank you.
thank you for this wonderful class and this service, and yeah, so much gratitude.
Thank you all. Same. Feel the same. Okay, well, I'll see you all Thursday.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.